Now for the most exciting part. Today we are a bit together as a family because we don't have that many viewers right now, but we will hop on to the questions. I will firstly ask the questions that we gathered from the frequently asked questions. First is, how can we customize account-related pages like login register for tired and non-tired applications? Galip, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, hi. Well, the customization of account-related pages are basically related to the account module itself. And since it is about the account module, we need to know where we need to customize. If it is a tiered application, account module itself is hosted by the authentication server or the auth server as we create. So you need to override the specific project for that. So how do you overwrite these pages? You can simply use the virtual file system, and you can create your own login or register pages under the pages/account and put your own CSS/HTML, and then it will automatically overwrite on the runtime and use these login and registration pages. If you want to go further and manipulate or customize the existing functionality as well, you need to overwrite the login model as well. So you can create a new model, such as my custom login model, and you can extend the login model and override the functionality you want to. And there is then other scenario in this case for the Angular, since even if you are using Angular, the default settings for the sign-in process is whenever you click to the login button or registration button, you are automatically redirected to the authentication server. In some cases, developers want to host the account, the login and registration pages on the Angular site, on the single page application. So it is when you are using resource owner password flow. So if you are hosting it, if you are using password flow, you need to modify all the account related pages under the Angular site. So it's completely at the Angular site. There is also a community post about a detailed override about how to override these pages in details that you can check. And I think that's all I can say.
I was on mute this time. Thank you so much for your answer. Well, for the next one, I will ask to you, Enis, but before I ask my questions, I would like to remind you guys that for the questions that you ask, you will have a chance to win JetBrains.ultimate. So if you have any question ever, please be sure to write it in chat. For my next question,
I think before that, there is a question related to this. Someone is asking about how can I customize identity server login pages, because people mostly just mix them up. What you call as an identity server login page is the account module itself. So that means you are using a tiered application. Your identity server is hosted in another application. So you need to modify that page in the authentication server.
Also, we have removed identity server support, and we are using OpenID.
Yeah.
OpenID now.
Not recommended.
And Bige, commenting is valid for the raffle? Only questions or comments are included?
Only the questions, I'm afraid.
Only questions.
Yes, because today is a special episode, so we will include only the questions. Okay.
Only nice questions, maybe.
No, all the questions. But only the questions, I'm afraid.
Okay, just hello doesn't work. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you guys for writing hello. Also, please be sure to ask your questions. Even if we don't answer your questions, be sure that your name is ending up in the raffle. So with that disclaimer, I will move on with Enis. How can a user change the logo?
This is
Excellent.
commonly asked question. Let's answer it. There are a few couple of ways to do that. The first one is branding provider. Your application has a branding provider by default. It's pre-configured in startup templates. You can use branding provider. Can I show my screen right now? Can I share? Let me. Okay. Can I? Okay. As you can see here, there is an interface which is branding provider.
Dennis, can you make it a little bit bigger because it's hard to see it?
I think it is much better. There is an interface in ABP Framework which is iBranding provider. When you configure it in your application, like this one, this logo URL, if you override this one, this will replace the logo inside your application. So this is the first approach to change your logo of application. The second one is
in this way, it's also possible to dynamically change.
Yes, while rendering the layout, this class is injected to layout, and layout will use this property. If you implement this class dynamically, yes, you can use dynamic logo. This is a commonly used approach, and you don't have to know which theme is used. You just configure branding provider and go on. The second way is much more easiest one. In the startup templates, let me make it bigger. For example, you created an MVC application. You can see there is a folder in your www root folder. You can see image / logo / leptons. You can see there are some lepton images which is included in your new project. You can just replace this PNG files. For example, you can see this. This is your project name logo. You can just replace this PNG file and everything is okay. You don't have to write any line of code. This is another approach. The last one is replacing branding component, but in this way, you have to know which theme is used and you have to customize that theme branding component. So it depends on which UI framework do you use. For example, it is different for Blazor, it is different for Angular, and it is different for MVC, but you can freely customize your logo, which is this one. You can follow this article for MVC and Razor pages. You can also find the exactly same document for Blazor under Blazor section. You can replace a component by following this document, but as I say, you have to know your team and your team branding component and override it, customize it. So these three ways is working for replacing your logo, changing your application logo. So I think it is clear right now.
Okay, we can go to the next question.
I was on mute, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, second time for this live. I see you guys are asking your questions, but I will move on with my questions for the time because those are, well, almost covering what you're asking. So for my third question, how do we add a third-party login like Azure, Okta, or, etc.? Galip, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I think it's again related to account and identity module as well. So third-party logins, basically using OpenID Connect protocol. So we already provide some of these third parties out of the box. Such as what we are doing is we are just simplifying the OpenID Connect to such as Microsoft, Google, and Facebook and such. But let's say some of them are not available, like Okta. What you can do is you can still check the Okta's its own documentation, and you can see what claims they are returning. So we are basically using the OpenID Connect protocol. Most of the time, developers can handle this. So they are connecting, but the problem is when the login succeeds, they still seem like they are not logged in. So they are logging into the wrong schema or something like that. You need to check the sub claim for that, and we have a specific sample for this. The Azure Active Directory integration is on the community page. You can check it. The errors you might get is the same because they are all standard OpenID Connect errors. So you can check them. The important part would be the related received claim type. So that should be a lot easier. And if you get any problems with that, you can always ask on GitHub issues or on the support site as well.
Yeah.
As a short answer, this should be.
Thank you so much. By the way, before we begin, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can always find the mentioned links and helpful URLs in the description box below. So for my next question, what is the difference between identity server and identity, and what does OpenID do, which we covered in the previous question?
Yeah,
Who's going to answer
Would you
that
like to answer that? Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in the beginning, developers may mistake because their name is also similar, identity and identity server. Okay, basically identity is a library provided by Microsoft to authenticate your own application. You can store and manage users and roles. Basically, it's good if you want to create a login and register page inside your own application. You can also combine it with social and external logins with the OpenID Connect protocol. So, however, it doesn't have any capability to provide token-based authentication endpoint. This is one of the miscoming points. So even for a simple Blazor WebAssembly application, you can't make your users login because Blazor WebAssembly needs a local or external authentication server. So only the Microsoft's identity library, you cannot make your application an authentication server that other applications use for login for their users. So identity server is an authentication server library. When you use it, you have a built-in OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect server that supports the standard authentication flows. So a client application can authenticate throughout your application with the standard flows. So identity server is a commercial and expensive library, to be honest. And identity server is an alternative option. It's open source and free library. It's an alternative to identity server. Identity server is actually more ready to use. And OpenID is a low-level library. You need to expose your own endpoints and implement the authentication flows yourself. Fortunately, with the ABP framework, we already have created these endpoints and the flows, so you can directly use it out of the box. Also, finally, as Volosoft, we are one of the main sponsors of this project to keep always free for everyone. So that's the differences and the story of these libraries.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I will move on with one of your questions from the community. Griswold asked that they are considering hosting their application on Kubernetes. What things should they take into consideration, and what resources are available for them to leverage as they develop their plan? Would you like to answer, Khalid?
Yeah, I can answer that. This is basically, this depends on your application type. Since if you are deploying a microservice template, for example, we already provide some of the infrastructure for it, such as a creation of the images and even the Helm charts. Let's say you are deploying a template, but a tiered template. So authentication server is different, and you have backend and frontend and completely different. So that's basically a distributed system you are deploying. The most important part is the relation between the authentication server. So the authentication server deployment is maybe a bit complicated, because out of the box, all the authentication servers are working, because you don't need to provide a real certificate, SSL certificate for it to work in development environment. But when you deploy it, you need to generate a self-signed certificate or a new certificate. So the authentication server can use it to sign and encrypt the tokens. So most of the time people are having problems related to this, but other than that, that should be quite easy, and it's basically up to your plan how you might, what is the front end you are using and such.
Okay, I want to contribute to the answer. Kubernetes is really a comprehensive tool, and it's complex. It comes with own complexities. So first thing, you should learn Kubernetes very good. That's valid for every scenario. I see that the most of the problems are related to that. People don't know Kubernetes very well and trying to deploy their ABP applications and asking us questions. However, most of these questions are related to know how your application actually works and acts in Kubernetes, how your components are interacted with each other, and so on. And also, I want to share my screen to add a few. Yeah. We have created a deployment guide. There are a few sub-documents. For example, for the OpenID Dict documentation, we try to explain how to configure OpenID Dict in the production environment. This document is important if you publish your application to any production environment. You should consider to set to configure your distributed cache properly. You should configure other features of ABP, and also when you probably using Kubernetes, you will want to deploy a clustered deployment. That means your more than one instance of your application works in parallel. So we have also documented what to do in this case. And finally, deploying to a distributed and microservice solution document also explains some concepts in especially in Kubernetes environment. So learn Kubernetes best. Also, especially with the ABP commercial, we are preparing all the Helm charts and Kubernetes configuration and almost everything out of the box. So, and also we are documenting it to how to deploy to Azure or another vendor. So that's all from me, Bige.
Thank you so much for the thorough explanation. Well, for my next question, I have for you, I think. What is Redis and why do we need it? And what is cached in Redis? That's one of the most asked questions to us. So if
Interesting.
you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, maybe most of you know what is Redis. It's an abbreviation for Remote Dictionary Server. So it's a dictionary, and the capability of the Redis is known as high performance reading and writing data. So what are we? Why are we using Redis? I will show you my screen. Can you add my screen to the stream? Okay. I will show you some places that the Redis is being used, like authentication server. You see, there is a Redis configuration. DB migrator, also, it needs to get some keys from Redis. Also, web host, HTTP API host. You see Redis here. Tiered Blazor server application needs Redis. Which one is needing Redis? You can easily see it from the getting started requirements section. When I choose tiered, you see Redis is being added. We'll make it bigger. So if you are using a tiered structure, you need to install Redis. And also I will show you this one that I got a screenshot. Setting management. In setting management, we are using Redis for setting values for settings. Permission management, we are using in permission store for granted permissions. SAS module, tenant store. CMS kit, we are using it for URL shortening public service for shortened URL cache. Language management, dynamic resource localizer class for the language text caches. File management, download token cache. Text template management, we are using it for dynamic template definition store, and in the GDPR module for class download token. So as you see, we are using it to store our tokens, permissions, settings, the things that we need to fastly retrieve from the server. So if you don't install Redis to your server, then you will see some slowness on your computer because the application tries to connect to this remote server, remote Redis server, and it has a timeout duration, like maybe 1 minute, and you will wait for 1 minute to get to see a page. And sometimes I see some people saying that ABP templates are very slow, but when I checked, they didn't install Redis to their servers. So it's an important point. I showed you all the places that Redis is being used. If you are using a tiered application or authentication server,
Basically, Alper, I can say that if you are running a single instance of your application in a single server, then you may not need Redis because the built-in in-memory cache will work and it will be enough. However, if you are running multiple instances of your application, or if your application has multiple applications, like in a tiered scenario, there is an authentication server, there is a HTTP API endpoint, and so on. All these applications should share the same cache. So this is possible with using a distributed cache provider like Redis. Otherwise, all the applications will use internal in-memory caches, and you will have an inconsistent state in the cache. Okay, that's important.
If you see Redis configuration in your app settings JSON files, then install it.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. For my next question, let's put all of us in the screen. Yes. This is for, alrighty, let me collect myself. Okay, this is for Gagip again. How can a user add new properties to current user, and how can they update the current user?
This is a common asked question about, since you can use the current user as a logged in user, so sometimes people want to use more properties for it. So as you know, the current user already implements iCurrent user interface, so you can inject the interface, or you can directly use the application services, which already provides the current user. So what if you want to add new properties? That's a bit complicated. You need to create a new interface by extending the iCurrent user, then creating your own implementation, and then filling it up when during the sign-in process. But what we suggest is, instead of overriding or manipulating the current user itself, use the claims. Basically, you can use the claims, add your own claim during the authentication process, and you can use it in your application from getting the current user's claim. For that, you need to extend the ABP user claims principal factory and hook it up to the identity builder. I think we already have a sample related to it under the ABP samples or in the community as well. There is a source code. So I will not go more technical detail. There already should be a demonstration. The idea, the suggestion from us is, instead of adding new properties to it, adding new claims, and you can handle it with much more subtle way.
Thank you so much. Well, for my next question, does ABP multi-tenancy support a user belonging to a multi-tenant? Haydin, could you answer that?
This is one of the most asked questions about multi-tenancy. As a short answer, no. In ABP, tenants are completely isolated from each other. They cannot share users, roles, permissions, settings, or any other application database by default. In this way, you can build your multi-tenant application as simply as it would be a single-tenant application. If you need to interact between tenants, maybe they are not tenants, but only a group of users in the same application because they are different. So your application may not be a multi-tenant application, to be honest. By the way, ABP's identity module extends Microsoft's identity library and adds an organization unit concept. Organization units may be a proper mechanism for grouping users in an application and hiding application data based on that grouping. So you can check the organization unit structure. It may work for your scenario. Also, in some specific cases, ABP allows to switch between tenants or disable multi-tenancy filter to query from all the tenant data. However, in an ideal design, tenants are taught like a separate companies, and the tenant scopes are considered as separate installations. So you should not mix these concepts.
I think this is also against the nature of the software rules. Like, you cannot be at the same time in the two different places, like in the real world.
Like in
That's
the
why,
physics.
yeah, like you cannot also a member of two different tenants, because tenant, there is a definition of this word, an isolated install of a specific customer client. So it means you are applying multi-tenancy in a wrong way, and you are trying to abuse the rules.
Maybe your application is still software as a service. However, it's not a multi-tenant application.
Yes.
Another question about the multi-tenancy. Does it support different DNS for tenants?
Let me show my screen.
It's a very good question.
Okay. Actually, we have designed a domain or subdomain tenant resolving from the first day. This is how multi-tenancy is suggested to be used. So typically, your tenant name is used as subdomain. So when you check the multi-tenancy documentation on the ABP documents website, in the architecture and multi-tenancy section, there is a tenant resolver, domain tenant resolver section. You can just check it. It's very easy to configure. Once you do that, it does magically works, because you should also configure your DNS server or your domain provider and so on. However, if the request is coming as fits to this pattern, then it's automatically resolved, and the tenant name is resolved from this placeholder. Also, Mahmut in 2 days ago has created a step-by-step tutorial to explain and demonstrate how this mechanism works with Angular. So you can also check his article. So it also proves that it even works in local environment when you configure your host file and so on. So
I think the question is more related not to subdomains, but different domains, like Amazon.com, Microsoft.com. They both needs to be redirected to the same website.
I understand. In the DNS side, it is same actually. When you do that, for example, for this configuration, you should only do that.
Yeah. At the bottom of the documentation, there's an example for it in the documentation.
Even if it's not like COM or you want to support net or something, this also works. So in this way, it gets the full domain name to resolve the tenant name. However, this should match your tenant's name. That's only rule. Okay.
And I think we have a custom tenant resolver where if they implement it, they can do whatever they want.
Definitely. The tenant resolve system is highly dynamic, and you can just implement an interface and resolve your tenant however you like. It's very easy, and just follow the documentation.
Yes, we
Thank you so
can
much.
go to the next question.
Yeah. For my next question, I would like to get one of the questions from YouTube. I am trying to find it. Yes, a question asked by Ahmet Ayman El-Alfi. I realized he also asked the same question from Twitter as well. So,
CQRS is what is a good question.
Yeah, this is this is getting asked a lot. So basically the most powerful aspects of the CQRS is when you are using in a distributed system. We have discussed this internally. You can easily implement in-memory CQRS providers such as iMediator and such, and that should just work fine. In application services, you can just write commands and queries or handlers. That should just work fine. The main power comes with the distributed systems when
with event sourcing.
And when especially if you are using event sourcing and such, we have plans about event sourcing samples in our backlog, but currently no, because if we want to add a CQRS, we need to change the default template as well, and basically we are not winning or leveraging anything, just the different code base.
Yeah. Also, there are some CQRS libraries and event sourcing libraries for .NET. You can try it and ask your questions based on your experience.
Yeah.
Instead of just waiting it from ABP, just try a pre-built specific library specifically designed for this purpose and see if it is working with ABP. If it doesn't work, if you have any problem, if it needs something from the ABP team, then write us and we evaluate this. However, this is a completely different topic, and currently we are not investing our times for that. Maybe in the future. We can go to the next question.
Yeah. For the next question, I will ask to you, Alper. Can a user use Angular or React instead of MVC for public website application?
Yes, they can easily create their own Angular, React, Vue, or whatever technology they want to use. We provide only MVC for public-facing websites. The reason is simple, SEO. We want to have your front-facing website to be easily cached in the search engines. But you can implement your own custom websites. I advise you just to check how we did the login part. That's the most important part. The other parts are simple pages. So they can, basically.
Thank you so much. For my next question, and then we will hop on to the differences. Is domain-driven design obsolete, and do a user need to learn domain-driven design? Adil, would you like to answer that?
As a short answer, no, it's not obsolete. It's not a library or technology. It's an approach to build complex systems based on object-oriented principles. Do I need to learn DDD? It depends on what you want to do. If you are building a large code base, at least it is good to check if DDD is for you and try to understand if you need it. ABP makes it easy by providing infrastructure and guides, but you can use ABP without knowing DDD. But when you use ABP and follow its suggestions, you have a clean code base, which is always an important thing. So having a clean code base, it has much more importance actually. Implementing DDD, fully implementing DDD is based, depends on your case actually, and your ability, and depends on a lot of things. So however, DDD is not obsolete.
Yeah, it's basically an idea, and ideas are bulletproof, you know.
Yeah. Like if you are developing a large system that has complexity at the heart, then yes, I recommend DDD. But for small size and no need future maintenance, then you can skip DDD.
Oh, thank you so much.
We can go to the next question.
Yeah, for my next question, again, I will ask to you, Khalid, and we will be beginning with the differences, because I see some people asking about the differences from one thing versus the another. So we will begin with this one. What is the difference between application service and domain service?
This is a good question, because most of the people, even experts, are misdesigning their business logic. In domain-driven design, business logic is split to two layers: application layer and domain layer. In domain layer, the business logic is implemented by entities, aggregates, rules, and domain services. In the application layer, it's implemented with the application service. The basic difference is that domain layer is responsible to implement invariants and core business logic of your application. However, the application layer is mostly for a specific application's business logic, and is highly coupled with your application logic, like coupled to your user interface and user interaction, basically the use cases. So application services implement use cases that are application specific. That means if you have multiple applications, for example, you may have a mobile application with a different screen and a web application with a completely different screen, but doing similar things, but have differences in the user interface and doing the same thing. So application service layer will be different for both these applications. So you will have two application layer dedicated to each application's logic, but shares the same common domain layer, which is implemented for both applications always. So in this implementing domain-driven design ebook, which is free, I have especially focused on this topic. So you can just download and read this book. And also, lastly, we have created two video tutorials for domain services and application services. So you can also watch them to understand the differences and similarities. And finally, you will be the developer deciding which logic will be in which layer, because it finally depends on your business logic and your application. We can go to the next question.
Thank you so much. How about the differences between Blazor server and Blazor WebAssembly? And do you have any suggestions in it?
Yeah, this is a commonly asked question. Yeah, I can go. There are really specific differences between them. As you know, they have different names, which is Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly. If you go with Blazor Server, everything is similar to your classic MVC or Razor-based application. All the written application code will run on your server side, and you can deploy it as any other ASP.NET Core project. So, but they use Signaler, as you know, you use Razor components, etc. But in the Blazor WebAssembly, you use exactly the same components and writing style, development style, but in the deployment, you can see Blazor WebAssembly is downloaded to client, downloaded to browser, and your code will run the client's browser. So your DLL files will be shipped to client browser, client to client. So, but the client, from the client side, from the browser, you cannot access your server side resources. So you have to deploy another application, which is HTTP API. If you create an ABP project, you will see there are two runnable projects, which one of them is HTTP API.host and one of them is Blazor project. You have to deploy two different projects, and you have to make HTTP requests to your server. So this is a different scenario. You have to know that your DLL files will be shipped to client and will be run in the client side for Blazor WebAssembly, but in the Blazor server, all the DLLs are running on your server. This is really huge topic, but as a summary, it is that.
Enis, I want to ask you, is Blazor server using SignalR to transmit UI updates to the clients?
Yes.
So then,
yeah.
if that's the answer is yes. If your project requires real-time interactivity or low network bandwidth, so Blazor server is better. If you want to build rich and interactive client-side applications that also you can run offline with minimal server interaction, then people choose Blazor WebAssembly. Can we say like this?
Yeah, it makes sense. This is a valid reason to choose Blazor server and Blazor WebAssembly. But both of them has advantages and disadvantages. For example, if your clients are too much, if your users are too much, you have to you have to use more resources for Blazor server. But Blazor WebAssembly runs the client side and makes only HTTP requests to your server. But yeah, there are too many advantages and disadvantages. You can easily research them, but I cannot suggest any of them. You have to define your requirements and choose one of them.
All right, thank you so much.
We can go to the next one.
Yes, for the next question, I will ask to you, Gadi. Do we, as ABP templates, do we support micro frontend?
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, no. We do not support micro frontend. For Angular, most of the time it's asked for. You will need to check for like Angular Federation libraries and such. Unfortunately, you need to handle it manually. We don't have plans for implementing micro frontend support.
Well, our first hour is completed. If we continue, we should give shorter answers.
Yeah, maybe we could take a look at the questions we were asked from the question live chat section. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. You continue with the next question from more prepared questions. I select the next question from the community questions, live questions. Okay.
Sure thing. Well, this is one of the most asked questions again as the other ones, but this is also what we are facing with. So, how to convert ABP open source template to commercial if a user purchases an ABP commercial license? iPad, would you like to answer that?
Yes. So there are two ways of this migration process. First of all, there is no automatic way to convert any open source template to the commercial one. You need to get your hands dirty. First one, replace all your open source Nugget and NPM packages with the commercial packages. Fix the compiler errors, then you are good to go. Second one, you can create a new blank, brand new commercial application and move your application services, domain services, entities, DTOs to your new project. And I think I suggest this second one.
Okay, thank you.
Using ABP. Okay, it's a technical question. Using the ABP framework, the repository pattern, how would I query across multiple entities, merge entity data via link queue at the domain or service manager level? Okay, good question. It's technical. I suggest to make it in a custom repository method and return the joined object. This can be an option if your query is complex, because in the repository boundary, you can access the DB context or underlying database provider directly and join multiple tables together. This is one option. The second option is to implement in the application service layer, not in domain services mostly. It may depend on your case, but most of the times it's probably related to show some specific data on the user interface. So it's related to the application services. So in the application service, you can get queryable from the repositories and join two queryables and create a single query. We can go with the next question.
We cannot
I
hear
was
you.
on mute.
Yeah.
Again, one of the mostly wondered questions. What is ABP Studio and when will it be available? Halil, I think you are the person.
Okay, share my screen.
Sure thing.
Okay, we have created a page to explain what is the ABP Studio. It's a desktop application, not a web interface. It's a cross-platform desktop application for ABP and .NET developers. It's integrated to the ABP framework and aims to provide a comfortable development environment by automating things, developing, running, or deploying your applications, providing insights about your solution, and so on. With this ABP Studio, we are also renewing the solution templates, especially we are working on the microservice template for a while. Anyway, you will be able to create new solutions, just like currently you are doing, with the new templates and new solution generation wizard with much more options. In the initial release, we will have some highlighted features. One of them is architecting your solution. Our goal is, think about that, a Visual Studio solution consists of C# projects. However, if you are building a distributed solution like a microservice solution, you typically will have multiple Visual Studio solutions, because every solution maybe will be located in a different repository, different GitHub repository. Even if you are using a monorepo approach, you will typically have multiple solutions. And ABP solution actually upper level structure that brings all these solutions together, all these Visual Studio solutions together. A Visual Studio solution is called as a module in ABP Studio. So you can add modules, you can add existing modules, you can create a new module, you can add reference to other solutions. So basically you architect your solutions in a high level manner. And also you can explore the important items in your solution, like aggregates, domain services, repositories, and so on. Without opening the source code of your solution, you can just explore the important points. You can explain your solutions to a new developer and so on. You can also explore the components of the modules you are using. And one of the important features coming with the initial ABP Studio version is running solutions. You know, Microsoft's Project-I is used to run multiple solutions. However, it's very limited. With ABP Studio, we have created a solution to run a lot of solutions and monitor the events, HTTP requests, exceptions, and logs in these applications very easily. So we have a dashboard to see and monitor what's happening in the applications. So you can easily explore errors or see requests between your services and so on. So you have a better insight for your solution. Even you can deploy your solution to Kubernetes with ABP Studio, then connect to that Kubernetes service and intercept a service to develop a service in your local environment and run other services and applications in the Kubernetes. So in this way, it will be much more easier to develop distributed applications with ABP Studio. I have had a talk in ABP.NET conference before that demonstrates the Kubernetes integrated development. So you can check it. Also, I have created an article based on that talk. You can also read it to learn more about ABP Studio. I know it's a long answer, sorry. However, this was the most important topic. So it's planned for the next quarter of this year. We hope to release it with ABP 8.0 based on .NET 8. Yeah, we hope and we are working hard to make it possible.
Yeah, I can get another question. I see an interesting question here from Sanchez.
Sure.
I like to implement a permission for every row in a table. How can I do that with the permission definition provider? I think he is on the wrong way, because permissions are for entering the related page or showing a button or showing the table itself, but it's not easily be used for filtering record level. But for this purpose, I can suggest you organization units. I think your requirement is more like using an organization unit. You can add people to organization unit. If you want to filter data for only one person, you can create an organization unit, add this guy to the organization unit, give related permissions, and then you can check every organization unit has some code. You can filter your data with this organization unit.
Yeah, I received
also row level. This is related row level security. It's a different concept, and you can implement it for your own entities. Microsoft's authorization system has a what was the name? A resource-based authorization system. So if you check ASP.NET Core documentation and find the resource-based authorization, you may have a good starting point. However, you can make it completely customized based on your requirements, because it's a completely different topic.
Yes, this is not a Businesssoft framework. Are we continuing to answer the questions?
I'm afraid not, but if you would like to answer any question that you want to in the comments section, that would be no problem. But if you are not, then I will wrap up.
Let's take another one. He wants to
right.
show some custom data in the toolbar. I think we have Can you show my screen?
Sure.
Docs ABP IO. We have a documentation on how to customize toolbars. Each UI has its own customization document. You can check this document on how to add your own data and replace the things in the toolbar platform.
Okay. Another question is coming from Ahmet. Can we add new endpoints and UI elements on runtime with plugin system? You can add new endpoints and UI elements, but not in runtime. You should make it available on while your application is initialized. This is the last step you can do. In the runtime, because .NET Core and ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET Core doesn't allow to add new endpoints, new controllers, because the root system is calculating all routes on application startup and so on. So it's very limited, and it's not our goal also to create a runtime plugin system like like WordPress or something like that. This is a compiled language, and it's not easy to implement this. Another question: when will ABP add more feature to .NET MyUI template? This version we have added. We have completely revisited the MyUI template. You can check it. If it is used and we get good comments, we have more requests, we can add more. However, for now, it become a good infrastructure and good startup point. Are you plan to add more functions to CMS? We always adding more functions to CMS kit, and
we added page feedback.
Okay, we have added page feedback feature in this milestone. In every release, we are trying to improve the CMS kit. While it's not very clear now, the next ABP community stand-up, ABP community talk, will be related to CMS kit, probably. We will also prepare an example application built with CMS kit. Then we will also explain how we built it and how to use the CMS kit features.
Well,
do you want to answer this one? He wants to learn ABP, which is the coolest path to easily learn ABP and start.
There are lots of DDD books, but we can suggest implementation of DDD in ABP framework would
actually for ABP. I suggest my Mastering ABP Framework book. It's a book sold on Amazon and Pact Publishing. This is the best point because I specifically wrote this book for this purpose. DDD book is also good. However, it's a different topic, and it's also included in the Mastering ABP Framework book with a little more details.
This one.
Yeah, this is the essential starting point for new developers with ABP Framework. Much more questions, but I think we can finalize because it's been late.
Last one.
Answered this question on the comments. Yeah, we have it on our backlog about application pro templates, but I would ask you to be a bit more patient since there are lots of varieties of templates, such as if it's on our backlog about application pro or something like that. So if tiered, non-tiered, etc. So we need to test and build based on that. So it will take a bit time.
We are also writing a deployment document right now. Should we Should we end the session?
Yes. Well, I'm
Okay.
going to have to wrap up before we are exceeding more of our time. So let me come to the exciting part of the day, as if it wasn't enough exciting, but we have the winners of the JetBrains.ultimate. They are Lei Zung, I believe, Robiul Hassan, and Qasim Alodat. I see Qasim in the comment section, but he was originally in the list for his email question. And Lee Jung was from Volosoft community, which is the place that you register to this ABP community talks events. So if you aren't subscribing us in those different platforms like Twitter and other stuff, well, you should, because as you can see, you might have a chance to win one of our prizes from those places as well. Well, for the actual winners, please send us an email writing I am the .ultimate winner in the subject line at marketing@volosoft.com, so we would be sure to deliver your .ultimate. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Well, we have other questions that we wanted to actually cover, but we had so much, we didn't have that many time. So maybe we could gather them up and then publish as an article maybe. So if you would like us to do that, please be sure to leave a comment down below of this recording. Well, that was it. Thank you guys so much for bearing with us.
Thank you.
It was a bit more than we expected, but
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Well, have
See
a
you
great
next
one.
time.
Bye. See ya.
See you next time.